Halifax.
Well, hello. Welcome to the midweek Wednesday edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. A busy day already as we roll along through your midweek. I saw, of course, you all heard me on the news this morning. Listening to the traffic, it sounded like the Wednesday commute was less than smooth. And if you're still making your way to the office, we're glad you're able to spend a few extra minutes with us in the car. I hope that that your drive home is better than your drive in. It shouldn't, but it does astound me that when there's one hiccup somewhere, and it doesn't even have to be for the whole commute, then things get just backed up. It's quite amazing. Anyway. Hope you made it to work safely, made it to where you need to go or to school or wherever it is that you go. It is a cloudy day out there today, but another warm one, right? Yesterday was beautiful. It's sunshine, the winds were low, and we had temperatures in the mid-teens. Today, some cloud rolling in, Alistair hinting at maybe some shower activity tonight into tomorrow, maybe. It doesn't look like it's going to be anything significant, but any little bit helps. Today's guaranteed high is 18, and I think the regular high temperature for this time of the year is around 13 degrees. So we are well above seasonal normals, and it just doesn't even really feel fall-like, does it? Did you see the pictures from Manitoba? Now, they had a snowstorm there. They had, good 5 centimeters or more of snow on the ground. It just it made me cringe because I know that that's coming, and I really don't want to see it, but it's not that far away, and it's just a few provinces over at this point. We know that Manitoba and the prairies gets weird weather at this time of the year, and I don't suspect that we'll see that kind of accumulation of snow for several weeks yet, but it certainly puts that reminder into your brain, right? And maybe starts you thinking, when am I going to put those winter tires on? Anyway, looks like it's going to be fantastic today, 18 degrees for a high temperature. It almost isn't or doesn't feel like October baseball weather. This feels like we should be sitting outside with perhaps a fuzzy beverage and watching a ball game mid-season, not watching the American League Championship Series, which I know many of us are going to be doing tonight, as the Toronto Blue Jays have traveled west to Seattle to face the Seattle Mariners. And Simon said it's not a must-win situation, but I disagree with him. I think that if the Toronto Blue Jays don't win tonight, or at least make a contest out of the whole thing, I truly believe that this series is over. Huge game. I know this is cliche season, right? Get out your book and your 110% and back against the walls and all of that stuff. But I think it rings true. If the Toronto Blue Jays lose tonight, boy, it's going to be near impossible to come back on the Seattle Mariners, who are a very good team. Now, let's not forget that this is one of the best-of-7 series, and it's a 2-3-2 series, right? So 2 games at Toronto that we saw the Jays lose. Now they go to Seattle for 3. And if the Blue Jays are able to extend the series, then that would come back for games 6 and 7 at Rogers Center. So that's the outcome of this series that I think that we're looking for. Of course, that game will be heard here live on the radio. I think the pregame starts at 8:30 tonight. So, as you well know, the Halifax Mooseheads are in town, and they've been in town forever, it seems. And they are playing tonight as well, and being that we're the home of the Mooseheads, creates a conundrum, doesn't it? Well, we've solved the conundrum. We did this in the American League Division Series. We're going to do it again tonight. So the Mooseheads game is going to start at 6:30 with Garreth MacDonald in the pregame. That will carry on the radio and on the stream. And then at 8:30, when the Blue Jays game broadcast kicks off, You'll hear that live on the radio, on an actual radio at 95.7 FM. We are unable to stream Major League Baseball games. It's against the Major League Baseball rules. So that creates an opening for us to shift the Mooseheads broadcast from the radio to the stream. So when the Blue Jays broadcast begins sometime around 8:30, Garreth and the team will be moving to our online stream. So if you want to catch the end of the Mooseheads game, you can log on to our website. You can, the app's on the phone. You can do the secret thing. You can do your smart speaker, and you can listen to the Mooseheads game. And like we did last time, and like I'll be doing tonight, if I'm still awake, we'll be doing both. I'll be listening to the Blue Jays broadcast on the radio and listening to Garreth and the Mooseheads call on the stream. It's that most wonderful time of the year for a sports fan, isn't it? So I just wanted to get that out there so you know what's happening tonight. Garreth will mention it in the game as well so that everybody's on the same page. Blue Jays game on the radio, 8:30 tonight. Mooseheads game starting on the radio and the stream at 6:30. At 8:30, we'll move exclusively to the stream, and you can catch the end of the Mooseheads game, the best of both worlds. And just very... Excuse me. I swallowed a fly. When's the last time that's happened on live on the radio? It's particularly in October. Wow. Anyway, that was weird. Anyways, and very quickly, one more programming note. Rob is off today. His show unavailable from the source, so we will not have the Rob Snow Show after this program today. You'll get an encore of me. Hopefully Rob's back tomorrow, and things will return to normal. So now that we've got all the business out of the air, and I've got a little extra protein in my system this morning. Wow, I don't think it's ever happened to me before. Anyway, we're going to, of course, have Dr. John join us after 11 o'clock today. Maybe I'll ask him if it's a good idea to swallow bugs when you're live on the radio. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. And he'll be here to answer your medical-related questions. That's going to happen after 11 o'clock today. And the open hour, of course, hits the air at noon. And we will be looking forward to your phone calls. Had a vigorous debate here at the radio station yesterday about a subject that I want to kind of broach with you as part of the open hour. Of course, the midweek meltdown, you can talk about whatever it is that you want, but we've been talking about the affordability crisis here for a very long time. And everybody's kind of got an idea, but no real concrete solution to it, right? We're talking about building affordable housing. We're talking about gearing it towards income and that kind of thing. I think a couple of callers during one of our open hours on affordability had mentioned, what about a guaranteed annual income? Well, there's a program that is running in Ireland right now. It's not geared to everybody. It's geared to the artist community. It's geared to people who work in visual arts and all of the realm of the arts world. And it was a pilot project that the Irish government has put out, and in fact, it's been successful, and they're going to extend it. How it works is you would get an annual income, and I think it's $500 and change a week. So it works out to, easy math, about $28,000 a year. That would be your annual salary that you're guaranteed, right? Everybody that's in this program would be guaranteed $28,000 a year. And then if you make any money on top of that, then for every dollar that you make, 50 cents comes off of the annual income. So once you get to that saturation point where you're earning more than the guaranteed income, you're not going to make double. It gets clawed back. Is basically how it works. Now, with the success of this program in Ireland, at least to this point, there are people that have been advocating for guaranteed annual income in this country that are saying that this is a good project. It works. It's taxed. It's taxable income. It's not like you're getting free money. Do you think this is something that could work in Canada to help with the affordability crisis? Now, having discussions around here yesterday with some of my friends and colleagues, people are on either side of this, and they're very adamant about it. Some think it's a great idea. Think it's the way things that we should move forward. That this is out of the box kind of thinking, even though it's been around for a while. Others, not so much. I got a lot of, well, why am I paying for somebody to sit at home comments? So I thought I would put it out there to you. Do you think that annual guaranteed income is a way that we can get out of this affordability crisis that we in Nova Scotia and many across the country are faced with at this point? I think it's a worthy discussion, and I'm very curious as to what your thoughts are. We'll do that at noon today. Don't forget, Dr. John at 11. We're going to do the open hour at 12 o'clock today, guaranteed annual income. Should this be something that we look at? I know other jurisdictions have tried it. I think I mentioned when we were talking about it last that places in Europe, I think Finland was one of them, that had tried it and it didn't work. It replaces things. It replaces social assistance. I'm not sure if it replaces employment insurance because you pay that when you're working. I don't know how that works, but my concern of it was that, well, is it free money? Are they getting $30,000 a year without having to pay taxes? Because that makes it suddenly a whole lot more. But no, it's not. It's taxed as income. It just taxes you and I are taxed on that supplement. So I'm curious to what you think about it, and I'm going to throw open the telephone lines after 12 o'clock today to get your thoughts on a guaranteed annual income for Canada. That, of course, whatever it is you want to talk about. You want to talk about the Blue Jays. I'm sure we can probably make some room for that, too, as we get ready for Game 3. We're about to stop. We're going to take a break. I'm going to get a big glass of water. And then we're going to come back with a conversation with independent MLA Elizabeth Smith-McCrossin. Haven't spoken to Elizabeth for a while. Looking forward to it. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. Happy Wednesday. We're back after the break.
Axe.
All right, welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. Hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday as we roll through the week. We're already halfway through. We're almost there, right? You can see the end of it anyway. I'm looking forward to conversations later in the show today. But I've been looking forward to this conversation since we booked it up, and it's been a while since we've had a conversation with our next guest, and that, of course, is independent MLA Elizabeth Smith-McCrossin, who joins me on the telephone. Elizabeth, how are you?
I'm great. How are you, Dan? Did you have a good Thanksgiving?
I did. How are things in Cumberland North, one of my most favorite places in the province?
Oh, thank you. It is so beautiful up here, I just have to say. Yeah, we're doing great. Thanks for asking.
The reason why we reached out to Elizabeth is it was in response. This kind of happened at the end of last week, and we were, of course, in the middle of our birthday broadcast, so we decided to push this through to this week. But an IWK survey came out showing that just over 27,000 maritime women reporting things like delays, dismissals, and heavy caregiving burdens. And Elizabeth, you have a bill that's before the legislature that deals with this, do you not?
I do, yes, Bill 166. So I just have to say, I'm so proud of the work that Jennifer Gallivan has done and her team at the IWK Foundation. So a big thank you to her and her team for doing this survey. It's pretty incredible. Over 27,000 responses. That's unheard of, really, when you do a survey.
For sure.
But probably over the last year, I've had women coming to me as an independent MLA, so people from here in Cumberland North, but also people from around the province that maybe haven't been getting a response from others, coming to me with concerns about lack of access to care as a woman. So, for example, I'll give you 3 examples,
sure.
Dan. One woman waited 3.5 years for an appointment to get into the gynae clinic at the IWK. Now, that is normal. Women are waiting 3 to 3.5 years for their first appointment. And then if they need surgery, they're waiting another 1.5 years. So 5 years for surgery, which is just crazy. Another woman, and this is common for endometriosis. There's no surgical interventions for endometriosis here in Nova Scotia. So we have one woman, Carista from Guysborough area. She actually had started a GoFundMe page and raised $28,000 so that she could pay for the surgery that she needed down in the States. Now she is pain-free. She's back to work and fully functioning 100%. And now she's using her experience to help other women. Then we have Rafa DiConstanzo. You probably remember her. She
Absolutely.
was an MLA from the city.
She was my MLA.
She is leading. She's an incredible woman, and she's been leading work trying to get our province to improve diagnostic imaging access for women with dense breasts, because a lot of women are getting late diagnosis of breast cancer. So there's all kinds of, so many examples where women do not have access to the care that they need. And the reality is it's affecting our economy. It's affecting society. When women are sick, when women are not able to be fully functioning, it affects all of us, right? And I did want to make a comment, Dan, that I want to acknowledge for all the men that are listening. We know that we need to improve access to health care for all people, including men. But today we are talking about the very real deficiencies in access to women's health care. And I'll give you one more example about this. Here's some data for people that like the numbers. So surgical specialists treating women are reimbursed at a lower rate than surgical specialists treating men. So at a 26.7% lower fee schedule for corresponding for surgeries. So that just is a very real example, which then leads to increases the lack of access to women's care, because you have less specialists treating women because they're not getting paid as much as if they're treating men.
Do we know why?
So,
why is it different? Do you think it should be isn't it one price for a human?
Right. I know. I mean, I would assume it's more of a systemic, these decisions were made. I remember working as a family practice nurse, and if a woman came in, pregnant woman came in for an appointment, the doctor was paid less for a prenatal care visit than others. So that is an example. That was right here in Nova Scotia, and that has been changed, but only recently. So there has been a chronic problem. It is a systemic problem, and that is why in the bill that I tabled in the legislature, one of the things that I'm asking for, and I know the IWK Foundation, that they also support this approach, is we need to take a look at the overall issues and policy that are leading to these deficiencies in access to women's health care. So I don't think we should just be plugging the holes, but we do need to fix things, but we do need to be taking an approach of, step back, examine all the reasons that have led us to where we're at, and then create a women's health strategy that we make sure then what we're fixing, we're taking the right approach, and it's going to be a good long-term fix.
And not only a fix, but you're also asking for transparency and for government to be held to account to publish these results of this thing, right?
That's right. I mean, the reality is it's our tax dollars. Right. You and I, everyone working out there, it's the tax dollars that are paying for this. So government does have a responsibility to be transparent and accountable. And we also need to push the federal government to do more. And there is not a national women's health strategy. And there's really no talk federally about women's health care, really health care at, we're not really hearing much about it at all federally. So I do think there is a need for us to be pushing the federal government to take some leadership on this role. They should be setting measurable standards that the provinces have to meet.
Right.
In my opinion there. So, yeah.
Elizabeth, we know that bills that don't come from the government sometimes have a long and arduous journey through the legislature. Have you spoken to the government side on this? Do they support your bill?
No, I'm having a little trouble. Sometimes, and I know it's not just me. I talk to my other colleagues in in opposition, there's not a real culture of working together or saying, oh, that's a great bill, let's work on that together. However, I will say bills that I've tabled in the past, the government may not pass my bill, but they do the work that's in the bill. Right. And that's happened time and time again. And I'm happy about that. And so I am hoping that happens in this case. I mean, the reality is, Dan, the people that are working in the departments are nonpartisan, and they are good people that want to do the right thing for Nova Scotians. So I'm confident that they're looking at this bill. They're looking at the survey results from Jennifer Gallivan and her team at the IWK. And I'm sure they are working right now on a strategy. And I am working regularly with women from across the province as well. We have a meeting next week in Halifax, and we will also be continuing to bring more women into our team and continue to strategize and continue to share ideas with the government and what these women are telling me. I mean, all the work that I do is fueled by the people, by people that contact me. So we'll continue to do that, and I'm confident that IWK will do the same. And I encourage other people, if you're listening and you've had challenges, speak up. That's the only way change will happen. We have to use our voices and create the change we want to see.
Elizabeth, it's difficult to try and get those cross-party supports when the legislative session's 8 days long, isn't it?
Oh my goodness, yeah. It's embarrassing. I'll be honest.
Well, you're not wrong.
Yeah, it's just for comparative. Federally they sit for 73 days. We
Right.
sit for 8. So, and we're the least in the country. I have a document. I get it updated once a year, and we sit the least. So, one person said, well, how can you guys be paid your salary if you're only working 8 days? And I said, well, actually, because we sit so little and because the legislative work is not getting done like it should, it actually leads to more work in our constituencies around the province because problems aren't getting fixed. So our offices end up being busier because we're not able to get the legislative and policy work done that is needed for this province. And there's a lot of really good public relations happening through the government. But the reality is what Nova Scotians are experiencing aren't reflected in what the public relation campaigns are saying. And we have to do the work. And there's a lot of good people in government, and I'm friends with most of them, like MLAs, the PC MLAs. And as well as those, the two Liberals and our NDP colleagues, there's a lot of good elected officials in the province that want to get positive work done for their constituents and for all Nova Scotians. So I would love to see a sort of a change in the culture with the government and welcome ideas and welcome, a collaborative approach. And it is possible. I know it is. So we'll just keep working. We'll keep working towards that. And I was disappointed. I think most Nova Scotians were, the fact that our session was only 8 days. I'll say my team here, I have a very strong team here in Cumberland North, and they worked for months preparing for that legislative session, and we got through less than a third of our work that we had prepared for that session. So and I'm sure other MLAs are in the same boat. So it was disappointing, and it won't change unless Nova Scotians speak up, right? That's politics. So if people aren't happy about that, reach out to the Premier, reach out to the government MLA and express your concerns.
Or call the show, because we're going to keep talking about it.
Excellent. Good. I hope you do. I do want to say,
Sure.
I was listening to your birthday show and last week, and it was so nice to hear the interview with Todd Veinotte.
Right.
And it was great to hear his voice, and thank you for doing this work and continuing his work here on the show.
Elizabeth, I appreciate it.
He's a good man. Yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
Have a fantastic day and enjoy the fall up in my favorite part of the province.
Thanks so much, and reach out anytime.
All right, that's Elizabeth Smith-McCrossin, independent MLA for Cumberland North. It really is. And I don't know what, there's a lot of beautiful areas in the province. Please don't get me wrong, but for whatever reason is when I get up in...
Veinotte Show with Dan Alstrand.
I thought I got cut off for a minute. Anyway, when I get up to the northern parts of the province, particularly in that Cumberland North area, it's just, I don't know, it just resonates with me. I like it up there. We're going to stop. We're going to take a break. Vanessa's going to reset things. And then on the other side of it, the show will continue. Boy, we're getting close to the end of the month, and that could see strikes not at one, not at two, but three Nova Scotia universities. A conversation with the president of CUPE 3912, Lauren McKenzie, right after the news. Welcome back. I'm Dan Alstrand. Hope you're having a fantastic day. And very quickly before we get to our next guest, hot off the presses. There's an old saying. Anyway, this just in, as we've been reporting this morning, that the Serious Incident Response Team has been investigating a police shooting yesterday in Eastern Passage. Just before actually during the news, this one came in, and it reads like this. The Serious Incident Response Team investigating a matter involving the discharge of a firearm by a member of the RCMP, which resulted in the death of an adult female in Eastern Passage. So there's an update. We last reported that it was life-threatening. That person has died. The CERT reporting that yesterday, RCMP, the CERT was contacted by RCMP regarding the shooting. They say the RCMP responded to a call at a residence in Eastern Passage related to a physical assault. An adult female was located and was in possession of a knife. The woman didn't comply with an officer's commands to drop the knife. Officers discharged a conductive energy weapon. That's a taser. The woman continued to approach with a knife. That's when an officer discharged their firearm, hitting the woman. She was pronounced dead soon after. So that's the very latest on the ongoing investigation into that police shooting in Eastern Passage yesterday. As I said before we took the break, we're getting down to the final innings, to use a baseball analogy, with regards to some of the negotiations going on within three different universities in Nova Scotia, and we could see strike action, as I understand it, by the end of the month. And one of those schools, Dalhousie, has already had a picket line set up in front of it this year. This will be the second time. Please welcome to the show the president of CUPE 3912. That's Lauren McKenzie. Lauren, how are you?
Hi, Dan. I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm well. I guess let's start there. Where is Dalhousie the first one that is has the potential for a strike, or are they all going to go at the same time, potentially? Okay.
Well, we have next week 3 what are called Day 13 meetings.
Yes.
So on Monday the 20th, Dal's meeting. On Tuesday the 21st, the Mount. And on Wednesday the 22nd, St. Mary's.
Well, so you got 3 in a row. Wow.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
And a Day 13 meeting, for those that don't know what they are, is?
Yeah, so in Nova Scotia, our laws require a 2-week cooling off period after the parties have reached an impasse in conciliation. So these meetings are set up as a real last-ditch effort to get the parties to the table and to get deals signed before we have to have any kind of job action or labor disruption.
Lauren, how soon after these Day 13 meetings is the union in a legal strike position?
Right away.
Right.
Yeah. So we have some legalities to address, and informing the labor minister of potential strike, for example, and informing our national union, and of course informing our members and preparing members. But if those meetings, our Day 13 meetings, don't result in a deal, then we are ready to strike immediately.
When can we see that? Will we see that next week if nothing happens?
Yeah. We cannot predict, because of course our primary goal is to get a fair deal for our members at those meetings, and we enter those meetings with with a lot of hope and preparation. And it is really a strike is our most powerful weapon as workers, and it's not something we take lightly. It's very disruptive, and we're very concerned about students and the continuity of their learning this fall. I just want to remind you and listeners that the Dalhousie administration locked out the DFA.
They did.
So, a strike and a lockout, they're really different. They may look the same to the public. They look like a picket line. But, a strike is collective empowerment by workers who have been working under really difficult conditions for a really long time here in our region as contract academic staff. So, a lockout is much more like an aggressive action by the employer to force workers to accept what's on the table, but they're being offered. So the DFA, the Dalhousie Faculty Association, was locked out for 5 weeks. That was an act of the university and the administration, and they have to answer for that. We as workers, as CUPE 3912 members, we are the lowest paid contract faculty in Canada. And our universities charge some of the highest tuitions, and certainly the administrations in the universities, their salaries have kept pace with inflation and rising costs of living in our region especially, right? But our wages have stagnated to the point that we cannot live with what we are paid. We cannot live on the salaries that we are paid. They're so below the national average and below the cost of living in our region that we absolutely have to present our strongest collective voice at this time.
Lauren, is our wages the main stumbling block in this, or is there other language that you're far apart on?
Yeah, thanks, Dad. There's absolutely other language. Our members have zero job security. That means, like, for example, we work at multiple institutions. We teach at Dell, we teach at the Mount, and we may teach at St. Mary's. We're running around the town trying to cobble together a living wage, and the job security piece, like for people to work that way when they are, getting established, okay, maybe in these times we see that, but we're talking about long-term employees. We're talking about folks who've been teaching at these institutions 5, 10, 15, 20 years and longer. And to say that those workers should not have pension, any kind of health benefit, any kind of job security, it's really not acceptable to us anymore.
Lauren, what jobs do your members fill, for those that don't know who you're talking about here? Yeah,
so CUPE 3912 represents instructors, and that includes part-time faculty, TAs, markers, demonstrators, independent course appointees, whatever you call us. What we do is frontline interaction with learners. That's what we do. That is the primary thrust of our work. It's being in the classroom with students and bringing that excellence and that educational experience that they are seeking. That's what we bring.
If this gets to a job action, Lauren, will classes go ahead, or do you think that they'll stop?
Mm-hmm. The DFA, the Dalhousie Faculty Association, they've just been through a 5-week lockout.
Yep.
Again, I can't express enough how important, we're all in this because of students. We're all in this because of what happens in the classroom. That's what brings students and instructors together. It's that magic that happens in the classroom, and that's where we want to be, and that's where we want our colleagues to be. So the Dalhousie Faculty Association has just been through a pretty significant job action, But we have solidarity from the faculty associations at St. Mary's, at NASCAT, at Dalhousie, at St. Mary's. We expect to see them out on the line with us. Do we expect them to disrupt classes for students? We do not expect that. But to show solidarity and to show action in ways that they can, and that then, yes, we accept it. We need it. But, we're looking at, the Dalhousie administration put their faculty association in a position and put students in a position and continue to do that by not refunding tuition to students.
Right.
And we do not want to make, students are not a pawn to us. They are the reason that we do this. And so that is a primary importance to us.
Lauren, again, those dates and obviously important for students and for parents, and knowing that they could see picket lines the day after.
Yeah. So again, we're looking at the 20th for Dal's Day 13 meeting. So they would be in a legal strike position the 21st, the Mount the 22nd, and then St. Mary's the 23rd.
Okay. Lauren, I keep us abreast of what's going on, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks for having me on.
Lauren McKenzie is the president of the union representing these workers. We could see picket lines, oh my goodness, at 3 different universities here in Nova Scotia by the end of October. Dalhousie first. That could be as early as the 21st, which is not that far away. In fact, it's next Tuesday. A school that's already seen picket lines for 5 weeks this year. Not good times on the university campuses. We're going to stop. We're going to change gears a little bit. We're going to take the break. Garreth MacDonald, the play-by-play announcer for the Halifax Mooseheads, will be joining us to tee up tonight's contest down at Scotiabank. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in minutes. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. You hear our next guest here evenings when the Halifax Mooseheads are on the ice and in action, and that, of course, is our good friend and play-by-play announcer, the best in the queue, in my opinion, and that is Garreth MacDonald. Garreth, how are you?
Wonderful, Dan, and very flattered as well. Thank you very much.
Well, it's hard work that pays off, man. You really are. They are the best in the league. I'll say that.
Good. Yeah, Dan, you're pretty good at what you do.
Well, see, look at all the platitudes today. What's
Anybody
going on?
Else want to jump on? Can we give more compliments?
Anyway, Garreth.
Vanessa?
Yeah. Well,
No?
hey, without Vanessa, this just none of this happens, right?
Absolutely. She's doing a great job back there.
And Garreth, you have been eating a lot of home cooking as of late because the Mooseheads continue to have this big homestand, and that continues tonight and into this weekend. We'll talk about the weekend series in a minute, but tonight is this a good test? Is this a good early season test for the Mooseheads? We went to Moncton and scored an overtime win against the defending champions. Not so much when they came back, but Victoriaville's off to a fair start this season, and this is our first real look at them.
Yeah, and I mean, last year you look at the season they had. I think they weren't just the worst team in the queue. I think they finished with the worst record in the CHL. It was a pretty tough season for Victo last year. So I think heading into this year, the expectations were certainly not through the roof for them. But I mean, they've been off to a pretty good start here. They got a winning record, 4-3 to begin the year. A new head coach. I think fans who also follow the Maritime Junior A Hockey League might be familiar with Simone Olivier. He's the father of current Columbus Blue Jacket Mathieu Olivier. And last season, he was with the Edmonton Blizzard in the Maritime Junior A League. Real good reputation in that league. Had a lot of success there. And heard a lot of good things about him early on during his tenure here with Victo. So, I mean, they're still a pretty young team on paper. I think if you look at the blue line, it's got some growing up to do. There's some maturing, some seasoning that's needed. But I mean, up front, they've got a lot of weapons. Igor Shilov is a real good story, and it seems that since I've been calling Mooseheads games, Veinotte always seems to have a really good Russian in the lineup. And right now they've got three of them. The best would be Igor Shilov, a guy that I think there's already a lot of buzz about him potentially being a first-round pick in the next NHL entry draft, averaging 2 points a game already. He's got 4 goals, 14 points in just 7 games. He's one of the top scorers in the league. He'll be a guy to keep an eye on tonight. But, it will be a test, certainly, for some of the youngsters of the Mooseheads blue line to try to shut him down. Because, like I said, he's been off to a pretty torrid pace here so far.
Mooseheads off to a 5-3 start on the season. Gareth, is that kind of where we expected them to be, or their performance? I know it's only 8 games into the season, but how's their performance been so far?
Yeah, I think there have been some ups and downs, some positives certainly to build off of. You mentioned the game in Moncton where the Mooseheads picked up a couple of points with the overtime win, got that OT goal from Quinn Kennedy a week and a half ago. That was a real good week for them. Just allowed 2 goals with a 4-1 win over Baie-Comeau, and then followed that up with that 2-1 overtime win over a pretty talented and deep and older Moncton Wildcats team. But last week they split 1-1. They pick up a win against Rimouski. That's a team that they should be beating, and then taking on Moncton again in a rematch. It was a close game. They got a late one from Liam Kilfoyle with the net empty. Owen Bresson was on the bench, so they did certainly make a game of it. But I think there were also stretches of that game against Moncton on Saturday where Brad Cuzner, former Moosehead, might have described it best, and the post-game show just kind of said, there were stretches of 5-on-5 play that felt like a Moncton power play, and they're a veteran team right now. It's a team that won the Gilles Courteau Trophy last year as league champions. There was a lot of turnover though, and Taylor McDougall, the GM there, he's done a pretty good job of reloading on the fly. And I think we might have touched on this in the past and in some previous conversations, but there's really no blueprint right now for building a winner in junior hockey anymore. The rule changed last year, allowing NCAA talent to come to the Q, and vice versa. That has certainly kind of changed the landscape here, and it's led to, I guess, a new formula. There's been there's new options that you can try in trying to reload, and something that we didn't really see a ton of in the past was bringing in a lot of players that might only be around for a year, these one and dones. But that's kind of what's happened there with that Moncton team. They got a lot of guys that are in their first year with the Wildcats who may only be there for 1 year. There are a lot of guys with commitments next year at the NCAA level. But it's been a unique strategy. The early returns have been strong for Moncton. Again, the Moose, we've talked about it before, one of the younger teams still in the league, and I think there were times during the game on Saturday night where maybe the maturity of the Moncton Wildcats being a little older, being a little more physically mature, some real big boys in the back end. They get Eric Wallenius, he's 6'4", almost 240 pounds. Carl Otto Magnuson, 6'7", around 235. There's some big guys out there. Those are men, and at times they really did take over the other night. Could it be just an off game as well for the Moose? So we'll see what they got here tonight against Veinotte. But overall, I think you have to be pretty pleased with the start that the Mooseheads have had so far. 5-3 record, and again, they're giving Mooseheads fans something to cheer about. Some of those wins on home ice at the Scotiabank Center.
We've had some interesting parts of the schedule, right? With this big homestand, we're having Thursday night games, Wednesday night games. Before we get into the more traditional Friday and Saturday night games, does it mess with the preparation of the team? To play a midweek Wednesday game.
Yeah, it's I'd say it's a lot. I think it's a lot for some young guys that are in university and in high school. We know that Ali McDonald, the assistant GM. He definitely puts an emphasis on education. Being a former teacher, he's the education advisor as well. So, yeah, there's a lot to keep up with, and it is a little bit different, I suppose, right now. That this schedule, with if you contrast it with the one they played last year, because last year was the first year where the team dropped back, or rather the league dropped back to 64 games. They moved from 68 to 64, and I think the intention at that point was to play more weekend games. And I think if you look back at last year's schedule, with the exception of some of the Quebec road trips, there weren't a ton of weekday games. It was at the expense of my NFL watching on Sundays. There were a lot of Sunday games last year, and it was so far. I guess we haven't really seen that. And I think there a little wrinkle got thrown the schedule makers' way with Newfoundland coming into the league, and so you kind of, if you look at it right now, the league technically doesn't have divisions anymore. I think it's just conferences. There's no more Maritimes division. The Central, the East, the West, those are all out, and it's just it's conference play at the moment. But that has led to a different looking schedule for a lot of teams. I think in Cape Breton this year, the fans in Cape Breton don't get a look at every team from Quebec, and that's a bit of a rarity, right? And that's with Newfoundland coming in with their travel. They just played their first road game this past weekend in Charlottetown, so they're sticking around. They're on the mainland here, and that has been interesting for sure. And I would say for some young guys, it's a lot to handle, but at the same time, they're used to a heavy practice workload as well. And there's no doubt in my mind that Brad McKenzie, Josh Eptitz will have those guys ready for tonight.
Gareth, is always a pleasure, my friend. Have a good show tonight.
I appreciate it, Dan. Thanks a lot. Always great to chat.
That is Garreth MacDonald, the play-by-play announcer for the Halifax Mooseheads. You'll hear him beginning at 6:30. Don't forget, at 8:30 tonight, we'll move the Moose to the stream. The Blue Jays game will take over the radio, the best of both worlds. And he mentioned Newfoundland as part of the schedule change this year. It's going to be a historic night on Friday night as the Newfoundland Regiment come to Scotiabank Centre for the very first time. And we have a pair of tickets to that game. Not for tonight's game, but for Friday night's game. Newfoundland Regiment, Halifax Mooseheads. If you want to go and see the first time this new team skates on Halifax ice, 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Caller number 7 will be our lucky winner. Good luck. Taking a break, Dr. John on the other side. This is the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrand. Back in minutes.
Facts.
All right, welcome back. It's time for house calls. The lines are open, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. If you have a medical-related question and you'd like some advice from our good doctor, here's a perfect opportunity, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Please welcome to the show, Dr. John Gillis. Dr. John, how are you?
Doing well.
I swallowed a fly on the air. Am I going to die?
Hope not. At some point.
It's never happened before. I watched it happen. It was buzzing around, and then it just went right in. It's crazy.
Hopefully it was tasty.
Well, I needed the extra protein, right?
Absolutely.
902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Have you been watching the Blue Jays series?
Yeah, I went to game 2. It wasn't a good one.
No, you picked the wrong one.
Yeah, I don't have the best in-person luck in Toronto. I may be banned by friends or city authorities. So,
right.
Anyway.
You go to a Leaf game, they lose too, right?
I had a bad streak for a while. Now, last year it was much better, but anyway, who knows? But they've been up and down as well.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Dr. John, as I tend to do here, and start things off with how things are in the virus world in the ER. Is it picking up or is it about the same?
Yeah, I haven't been there in a couple of weeks. I'm in tonight, but by all accounts, it's still a lot of it out there, a lot of sniffles, a lot of coughs, and, multifactorial different viruses. And, the same story goes. Get immunized against what you can protect yourself against, and minimize disease burden for yourself and for other people. It's the way it should be.
I understand that the COVID vaccine is now available widely, so people, I would imagine, are going to start getting those shots.
Yeah, it seems so. So hopefully, and again, it's not killing people typically unless they have other problems, but it is keeping a lot of people sick, off work. And if you can prevent yourself from getting sick, you can prevent someone else from getting really sick. So that's important.
No being a hero, right?
That's it.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. If you have a question for Dr. Gillis, lines are wide open. Your opportunity. Dr. John, this is a holdover question that we had from last week, and it reads, I'm trying to work on my chronic fatigue. I don't have sleep apnea. I don't have a thyroid problem. I am diabetic, but the fatigue predates that. The writer goes on to say, I've cleaned up my diet. I don't drink soda anymore, pop anymore. I've increased my protein intake. I've stopped looking at screens before I go to bed. I go to bed and wake up at the same time daily. I've always increasing my exercise, which is still not a lot, they admit, but something's better than nothing. But I'm always tired, always. Should I be taking some kind of supplement as we get into the winter season?
Well, there's a lot of reasons for chronic fatigue. I mean, some of them were mentioned there: anemia, thyroid, that sort of thing. You want to make sure your hormone levels are okay, depending on gender. Low testosterone or menopause can cause fatigue, depending on the gender of the caller. Sometimes people, they mention sleep apnea. They say they don't have it, but they may snore a lot or just have disturbed sleep. So if you haven't had a sleep study, probably have had if they say they don't have sleep apnea, but you never know. Probably worth checking that. Probably worth considering mood. Sometimes people who are depressed and don't know it, their manifestation is fatigue, and sometimes treating that helps how someone feels overall. And then sometimes simply, a sleep aid of some sort. Trying to find the right one can be tricky, but that's the problem with some people. They're in bed for the right amount of time, but they wake up a lot, they toss, they turn, they're not getting restorative sleep. So, a sleep study, coupled with the possibility of a sleep aid in the context of those other things I mentioned are worth looking at.
How about supplements, Dr. John? And I know that's a can of worms, but I hear like vitamin D is good in the winter, magnesium's a good thing to try. But that supplement market always kind of scares me because there's not a whole lot of regulation attached to it.
Yeah, well, vitamin D is something your body requires for bone and calcium metabolism, and is generated in large part by either exposure to sunlight or diet. And if you're, unless you rock out of here to a warm place in the winter, you're not getting as much sun. So people's levels do tend to fall in the winter, which is why, we often suggest vitamin D in the winter. Magnesium can be a useful sleep supplement for some people. It helps relax people. So for some people, that is a good choice. It's one of many, in trying to determine what the best option is. So, there are options out there. It just depends what you're trying to do. And like I say, I see people all the time, taking 10 different supplements that are doing nothing. I see people who are very selective and, find something that works for their specific issue, and they do well with it. So, education is key, and getting proper advice.
Does that go? Do we go to the nutritionist for that? Do we go to our family doctor? And I'm thinking about the size of doses and those kind of things.
Yeah, a little bit of both. The family doc, nurse practitioner, pharmacist, a dietitian that is well trained in supplements. Some are, some aren't. Can be helpful as well. And again, it's looking at quality of a supplement, what it's meant to do, and making sure that it's being prescribed for the right reasons, and isn't just buy this for me so I can sell a product, which unfortunately does happen.
902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Again, another holdover email from last week, Dr. John. It reads, my husband has been breaking out in hives when exposed to heat. It started yesterday, so this would have been last week. On his way to work, he turned on the heat in the car when it got cold, and he broke out into hives. He showered last night, and it started again, then again in the morning on his way to work. Heat seems to be the trigger of it, but there has to be something else going on, the writer says. Any ideas on what this could be or how to get it to stop?
Yeah, it's a little unusual that it would just start kind of randomly, presumably later in life. Sometimes the things that can contribute are new medications, stress, lack of sleep, other changes in the environment. But it does seem pretty random that, it's just starting all of a sudden. So, the obvious things to do are try and identify, has anything changed in the environment, even something as simple as soap, that sort of thing. Look at, some basic treatment with things like reactant antihistamines. But if it's progressing, definitely get someone to take a look at it to see if they can identify, a more, serious cause if there is one. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but, is there a developing allergy that's more severe? Did he get stung? Was he exposed to something he wasn't exposed to? Now he's been sensitized.
Right.
It's hard to say. So that's
I
probably the best advice.
I would imagine there's a million different things that cause hives, right?
Absolutely.
And heat's not a normal trigger.
Well, it can be. It just seems odd that, out of the blue. I mean, we've all had, you grew up in Canada, you've got a heater in your car or in your house. It didn't just, I'm sure the guy probably just didn't move from the sub-Saharan Africa. So probably has been exposed to heat before. So it does seem a little odd, probably worth getting checked.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. We're going to take a break. House Calls continues on the other side. If you have a question for Dr. John, lines are wide open. Again, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. We're back in minutes.
Facts.
All right, welcome back. This is House Calls. He is Dr. John Gillis. He's here to answer your questions. If you have a question for Dr. Gillis, the lines are open, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Dr. John, let's go right to the phones and welcome Janice to the show. Janice, how are you?
Hi, good morning. I'm well. How are you guys?
Good. Your question for the doctor, please.
Good. Dr. Gillis, I've been having some issues with my own family physician. And I've been doing a little bit of research, and the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Nova Scotia, they have a checklist. There's a checklist of that a physician practicing medicine in Nova Scotia must ensure that they fulfill all mandatory medical regulatory requirements. And it says this document provides a checklist along with concise blah, 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 blah. This checklist, it says there's 14 issues: a medical license to practice, medical corporate permit, service provider billing number, medical identification number, medical liability insurance.
For the sake of time, can we get to the question, please?
Okay. If I discover that my doctor does not meet these requirements, what should I be doing?
Well, I mean, I guess flip it around on you. If the person is here practicing and has a license, typically by definition, they have to demonstrate that they have all those things, right? When you apply for a license in Nova Scotia, you have to show all of that stuff. You have to prove that you have insurance. You have to prove that you have the certification and, all the things. And when you renew it every year, you have to, attest to the fact that you still have your insurance, that you haven't been, gotten a license in Tanzania and been sued for something. You have to disclose anything that's happened and this happens every year. So it would surprise me greatly if somebody is practicing here and doesn't meet all those criteria. I mean, I guess it's theoretically possible, but it seems pretty far-fetched that somebody would get licensed and, then somehow not keep up with the requirements. It seems very unlikely. And I guess item 2 is, what's the goal here? What are you hoping to achieve with this information?
Well, struggled with this doctor. My quality of life for years has been, and I honestly, I want to prevent other people from going through the same hell that I have.
Yeah, I guess I'm just not clear on what the issue is. Do you have a pain issue and somebody's not treating pain, or is it something else?
I've had a number of symptoms over about 30 years that I've had this doctor, and I have recently, within the last 6 months, made some pretty mind-blowing discoveries, and I've been addressing my symptoms, taking care of it on my own against my doctor's wishes, and I've been getting better. And the blood work, I mean, I'm seeing blood work results that should have been brought to my attention, and this doctor has been causing me harm over the years, and I'm finally coming to a point where my quality of life is worth living for, and I'm sure that I can't be the only one going through this.
Yeah, I can't answer that for you. I mean, I would encourage you to, if you're finding a better pathway elsewhere, to continue down that pathway. If you truly feel something has been missed, then you can certainly, follow up on that. I can't comment on that, but your point about the checklist, I think that's a dead end. I think anybody with a license here almost certainly has has by definition met those requirements to get a license. And, if I were you, I would focus on your well-being and the positive steps you've made, as opposed to, for lack of a better phrase, chasing your doctor about, things you're unhappy with. But that's your decision in the end.
Janice, I appreciate the call. Best of luck. Dr. John, if you have a concern with a physician in Nova Scotia, or you think that something's out of bounds or out of whack, is there a process? Do you go to the regulatory board? How does that work?
Yeah, there's a process through the College of Physicians. It's online. It's and it can start with something as simple as trying to have an informal resolution all the way through a detailed process. I typically encourage people, if they have an issue with their provider, to try to have a discussion about it and resolve it. Raise the issue, discuss it, try to get the answers that you may not have had before. And the other piece of it is that, there's a difference between not, if you don't like someone's opinion or they won't do something that you want to do, that doesn't mean that they've done something wrong. It could, but it doesn't mean they have. I mean, there are people that don't like their provider because they don't clash personally. That's not incompetence. That's not dangerous. If somebody's missing things, it is important to, talk to your doctor if you're concerned about stuff. And there are cases where things do need to be escalated. But typically the best approach is communication and trying to resolve things personally and cordially.
Just to be clear, Dr. John, to that checklist that Janice told us about, that you have to do that every year. Is that right?
Well, I mean, I obviously I'm not looking at the exact list she means. I'm assuming, though, she's talking about what's required to get a license in the province. And
right.
By definition, to get a license, you have to have a medical degree. You have to have something called the LMCC, which is a test you take when you're done medical school. You have to have proof of your certification in whatever you're certified in.
Right.
And then you have to have proof you have insurance, malpractice insurance. So, there's a whole list of things that you have to have. You do have to attest every year that, that hasn't changed, that, if someone hasn't, revoked your medical degree, to take an extreme example, you have to attest that, if you have a license in another province, you have to, demonstrate that, there hasn't been a problem in that jurisdiction. But that's a very quick process. I mean, you click a link on a website and it gets generated. So there's an oversight process every year, but most of it is just revalidating what always has been. It's not, it would again surprise me if somebody was practicing and, got a license without having all those things or had something, taken away or invalidated because it's checked and followed every year.
And second opinions, doctor, that's we often talked about that's obviously still a plan of attack here. If you don't like something, can you go to another doctor and get a second opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. And, and sometimes that's harder to do. You can,
right.
Sometimes someone's own doctor will refer them. Sometimes it's a matter of, going through a walk-in clinic or a merge or a specialist that you may be seeing for something else. And, it's, you always want to do the best for the patient's sense of well-being. There's balance in all these things. I mean, I see patients in the pain world who, are just, despite having had, 10 MRIs, 5 CT scans, every test known to humanity, still think that something's being missed. And all you can say is, look, I think you've had all the right testing. I believe you have pain. We're going to try and treat your pain, but I don't think you need more testing. For some people, they'll never accept that. That's uncommon, but that, those instances do happen where there's just a difference of opinion on a plan of attack. And again, usually it can be resolved with, good communication and working together.
902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. We're going to stop, take a break for the news. House Calls continues on the other side. Again, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Dr. John's back after the break. Welcome back. It's the Wednesday edition of the Todd Veinotte Show, and that means it is House Calls. Dr. John Gillis here for the next 30 minutes to answer your medical-related questions. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255 is the number. Dr. John, let's go right to the phones and welcome Glenda to the show. Glenda, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Good. Your question for Dr. Gillis, please.
Okay. I have cancer. That's not my problem. I'm undergoing chemo and immuno, so that's being taken care of. But when I first started my chemo, I developed shingles. They have broken, and the itch is driving me crazy.
I bet.
Is there anything you can do for that? I've tried everything. I'm taking Reactin. That's what my oncologist said to take. And I've got hydrocortisone cream, hydrocortisone ointment, Benadryl cream. I've got everything. Nothing seems to help.
Yeah, it sounds like you've tried most things. The only other, some people use Atarax, which is a different antihistamine, which sometimes works better for certain, certain itch attacks. You could talk to your provider about trying that. Hydroxyzine also, calamine lotion sometimes helps, but again, you've tried all the stuff.
Yeah, I'm tried the whole class and everything.
Yeah. Sometimes a short course of oral steroids if it won't settle down. I do find people, are scared to dose Reactin higher. I mean, the standard dose is 1 to 2 10 milligrams a day, but allergists will use far more than that in people.
I only take 1 Reactin a day. I go by the directions on the box. So,
yeah, is that
could I take 2 a day? Pardon?
Yeah, you should probably talk to your doctor, but you can. Yes, I mean the maximum dose is higher than that, and is again used. By allergists at higher doses. But if you're only taking 110, you could probably safely go to 2. Double check with your pharmacist with your other meds. But and then if you wanted to go higher than that, you probably have to talk to your doctor.
Good luck, Glenda.
That seems like a starting point.
Good luck, Glenda. The best of luck, and it's got to be awful to have shingles like that, Dr. John. They're just awful.
Yeah, no, it can be terrible, and again, sometimes it is, chemo or something else that suppresses the immune system that can trigger an attack.
Right.
Another reason to get your shingles vaccine because it can be quite nasty when it comes.
902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Got an email question here for you, Dr. John. It says, I have bouts of arterial fibrillation, I can't say that word, and arterial flutter. I had a cardiac stress test. I waited almost a year for a cardiac ultrasound, which was very thorough. I haven't had a follow-up appointment with my cardiologist, who's a great doctor. Isn't it strange that he would request those tests and then not follow up with me? Also, the emailer whose husband gets rashes when exposed to heat, which started when he put the car heater on, could be a dirty cabin filter. That was what I kind of thought, and it could be the cause of it. But anyway, getting those cardiac tests and no follow-up, Dr. John.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it depends what no follow-up means. It was the test a week ago or was it 2 years ago? There's difference. Follow-up takes some time. Typically, I mean, I get things put on my desk every day that are normal or unremarkable, meaning there's nothing concerning or dangerous. And, we'll schedule routine follow-up when the patient is in next or what have you. I guess if the patient is concerned, they should call the ordering physician's office and say, look, I'm looking to get some follow-up here, and see what they say. That's probably what I would do.
And I would imagine, if you're going to go through the process of having all those tests done, then you're going to want to at least, see what the results are, right?
No, absolutely. And again, most of the time that when this sort of stuff is done, it gets looked at and it's normal. There's nothing emergent, but you still want to know. So I would give a call.
902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Dr. John, let's welcome Jason to the show. Jason, how are you?
Not bad, thanks.
Your question, please.
Dr. Gillis, I've been treated for chronic pain for probably 10 years or more. And over the last year, I've been having an ongoing issue that's outside of that realm. When I go to bed at night, it was infrequent at first. One or both legs would go numb. It started getting more frequent to the point that it's every night now. Now, I've gone to the emergency room, I think it's 3 times now, seeking help for this. And they do x-rays, but they keep telling me nothing is wrong. But this is getting worse, and I don't know. I'm looking for your opinion on this.
So when you say x-rays of what? Your back?
Yes.
And was it just an x-ray or did you have a CT scan or an MRI?
Excuse me. They just did x-rays.
Yeah, so x-rays are useless for determining causes of, numbness, pain, and weakness. They show broken bones. So, they're useful in the back, for looking for compression fractures, particularly in elderly folks, or if someone's fallen and, we're concerned they've broken their back. If you're having nerve involvement, which, numbness, tingling, and pain might suggest, at a minimum, you need a CT scan of your back. CT scans are decent for backs and not very good for necks. An MRI is a better test. The other test that, would tell us something would be nerve conduction studies to see if there's perhaps the problem's not coming from the back, it's coming from a nerve further down. But it sounds like you need some further investigation, and whether that's through your family doctor or back to emerge, x-rays aren't going to cut it.
Okay, so, excuse me, my throat's a little fogged up there. I technically don't have a family doctor at the moment. My family doctor's off on leave. So I have to go through emergency. And I guess, excuse me, God, I can't, I apologize. My throat's all messed up. How can I get the emergency department to do the MRI where they only want to do the x-ray? I don't know how to get the care that I'm looking for, but this is getting worse. And it worries me.
Not an easy question to answer. I mean, I think you probably just need to go back and explain the symptoms you're having, that they're getting worse, and that, can someone hook you up with either a CT scan or an MRI and or some nerve conduction studies to see if there's something going on, because the x-rays, as I said, are pointless.
Thanks for the call, Jason. Good luck. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801 800-878-8255 is the number. Got an email question here, Dr. John, and I hope I pronounced this right. It says, "Hi, Dr. John. I'll try to keep this as short as I can. I've been taking, is it fluoxetine for around 2 years, and I understand there can be some negative side effects to taking these and ibuprofen together. I've got a very sore, swollen gum at the moment. It's been keeping me up at night due to the pain. Painkillers don't do anything. I'd really like to try ibuprofen to get the swelling down. Can I take one as a one-off? Anywhere I look online says no and to ask a doctor, but I don't have it in me to make an appointment to go and see my doctor."
Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of a risk of increased bleeding from both drugs, and they can interact that way, but a short course of that, unless someone has other bleeding issues or disorders, should be safe. That should be fine.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. We're going to take our last break. House Calls continues on the other side. This is the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in minutes. All right, just a few minutes left here in the House Calls segment of our show. Dr. John here to answer your medical questions. Again, if you're looking for the number, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Dr. John got an email question. Somebody making light of my experience earlier today when I swallowed a fly while I was trying to read the news here, and said the same thing happened to him, except that he was putting the garbage out and a small bug flew up his nose. He said he wasn't too worried about that. He's pretty sure it left, but he does say that his sinuses for the last few weeks have been extremely dry. And is there an easy or good solution to dry sinuses at this time of the year?
Some of the things, the neti pots and things like that, where you can irrigate your sinuses, help moisturize. People that get a lot of nosebleeds, I often suggest that they use a little bit of Vaseline just up inside the nose to moisturize and to add humidity there. Those are probably the two biggest things. And in optimizing the humidity in your house, a lot of us need dehumidifiers. My house is a sieve of an old basement that just leaks moisture, so I need a dehumidifier. But some people need humidifiers in their environment if they're dry, particularly from air conditioners or heat pumps or heating in general. So probably start there.
Aside from obviously nosebleeds, is there any other medical conditions that dry sinuses could lead to, or is that just mainly what happens?
Not typically.
Right. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Let's welcome Mark to the show. Mark, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Your question for Dr. John, please.
Quick question on clemestin fumarate for taking it if you have MS. I know there's some studies there that it says it can help regrow myelin, but however, the only thing available in Canada was, I think it was Dayhist or Tavis, but that's been voluntarily taken off the shelf. Can a doctor prescribe clemestin fumarate? That's my question.
Sure. What's the drug?
Clemestin fumarate.
Yeah, I'm having trouble hearing you.
It's clemestin fumarate, right?
Yes. It's common in a drug called over-the-counter medication like Dayhist or Tavis, it was called.
To be completely honest, for use in MS, I don't know. I mean, it's an antihistamine.
Okay. Okay.
Have you inquired if it's available in Canada?
It's not available. It was voluntary, taken off the shelves. I think I forget what it had to do, why it was taken off the shelves, but it might have caused some irregular heartbeats or something like that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at an article here today that says clemestin may worsen MS disease. So, I'm not sure where this is coming from, but if you've got MS, you should be asking these questions to your neurologist. But I'm only familiar with it as an antihistamine, and looking at this article says it may actually make MS worse, but this is above my pay grade.
Best of luck, Mark. Appreciate the call. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Got a very brief email question here for you, Dr. John, and it reads, can you take weed, I'm assuming it's cannabis, with lorazepam?
Only if you pronounce the N at the end and not an M. That's one of my biggest pet peeves in life. I lay awake at night sometimes because people say lorazepam.
And so it's lorazepam with an N. Yeah.
No, it's with an M. They say it with an N.
Okay,
right?
fair enough. Okay, well, I've learned something today.
I won't go for it.
Can you take it with weed?
Yeah, I mean, you can take anything with weed. It's a question of, a double cheeseburger and a side of Doritos. It depends what you're trying to do. Lorazepam is a sedating medication. Cannabis can be a sedating medication. Are you taking it for sleep? Are you taking it for anxiety? How bad does it affect you? How much are you taking? Are you smoking 42% nuclear weed that's grown in a lab in northern BC, or are you smoking the mild stuff that they sell at the liquor store here? So it all depends on the who, what, why, where, and how. What are you doing it for? Can the two be taken together, and do people do so commonly? Sure. Is it the right choice for everybody? No. It can be too sedating. I personally don't like lorazepam. I don't like lorazepam at all. But lorazepam, as benzodiazepine, was an effective sleeping pill and can help in short-term anxiety. It's also a highly addictive, very hard substance to get off, and it's kind of frowned upon more than it used to be for use for sleep and that sort of thing. Still has a place, but so the answer is yes, you can, but make sure everything is looked at together and that you're using it for the right reasons.
Dr. John, we're out of time. I appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Talk soon. Thank you.
That is Dr. John Gillis here every Wednesday to answer your medical-related questions. We're going to take a break, of course, at the top of the hour. And on the other side of it, we're going to open up the telephone lines for the midweek meltdown. You can talk about anything that's on your mind. There's an awful lot of stuff going on out there. But one thing, and I mentioned it off the top of the show, and for those of you who have joined us late, that we had a very vigorous, I think is the best way to describe it, yesterday, conversation here at the radio station amongst some of my friends and colleagues. We were talking about a story that came to us from Ireland, and the Irish government has run a 3-year pilot project for people in the art community. So we're talking about visual artists and people that work in sort of that sector of the economy, I will say, and they used them as a part of this pilot project to try and spur the arts sector in Ireland by giving them a guaranteed annual income. Now, the numbers are in euros, and I just for safe numbers, I rounded it up to it works out to $28,000 a year that somebody would receive from the government every year as part of this guaranteed annual income. That's the whole genesis of the thing. Now, it's, as I understand it, and not being an expert on it, but I did do a little bit of research on it, it's taxable income. It's income that is taxed just like you and I get taxed on it. And should you make any money in addition to or outside of the guaranteed annual income, then for every dollar that you make, it gets rolled back 50 cents. So once you get to a certain point, then you're making more than the annual income is, and then you wouldn't need it. And it's not like you're going to get that money and then anything you make on top of it is going to be gravy, and you can go out and get a $60,000 or $70,000 job and get an extra $30,000 from the government every year. That's not the way that it goes. But it sparked an interesting conversation here yesterday. And to be quite honest, there was really not a lot of middle ground on it. It was either that this is an important program and it's something that we should explore, not just in a certain segment of the economy like they are doing in Ireland with artists, but in a wide swath of the economy here as a way to combat the affordability crisis that we're having here in Canada, and particularly here in Nova Scotia. Something it's the only solution. It's the way that we get beyond this, because it's not like we're going to see rents drop $1,000 a month. It's just not going to happen. It's not like we're going to see the grocery store prices drop significantly. right? Inflation means that it's gone up and it's not going to roll back. And if we're sitting at 2% where everybody's happy, that still means the prices are going up 2% a year. But the other side of the coin is, and it tended to be kind of the area where people went that were opposed to it, is that they weren't willing to sit back and watch somebody make $28,000 or whatever the number was. We'll say $28,000 Canadian a year by not doing anything. And I'm not suggesting that the artists aren't doing anything. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about using this as a solution to some of the affordability issues that we're having in Canada. Guaranteed annual income. We've talked about it here on the program before. I'm very curious as to what your thoughts are on it, because as I've said many times, I think we're at a point now with the affordability crisis in the economy and the state that it is in, that we have to think outside the box. And is this the right way to go? Is this the solution? I know other jurisdictions around the world have tried it. Some have been successful, like Ireland has in this small pilot that they did. Others have tried it on a more broader scale, and were not as successful. When you bring in a guaranteed annual income, it eliminates social assistance for the most part. Obviously, disabilities and those things would still be around, but and I'm putting quotes around this, the welfare goes away, right? I'm not sure what that means for employment insurance. But is this the right solution? Is this something that we should look at in Canada? Is to ensure that everybody that is of working age gets an annual income of $28,000 a year, and then we start from there. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. The Midweek Meltdown, right after the news.
Facts.
Sometimes I think the best discussion pieces for this segment of the show happen when you're having conversations over Thanksgiving dinner or with your colleagues at the water cooler at work, because particularly around here, there are people here with varied opinions on just about everything. Vanessa and I agree to disagree on a lot of stuff, right? It wasn't us that was arguing it back and forth. Wasn't it we? Is that the proper English? But this was something that I had a discussion on yesterday, and just based on some of the arguments on either side of it, I thought it would be fun to bring it to you and see what you think. Guaranteed annual income. For those of you that are just tuning in, there's a pilot project underway in Ireland right now where they used a small segment of the economy, the arts segment, and they enrolled, I think 2,300 people. There were 6,000 applicants. They picked the 2,500 maybe is the number, and they gave them $28,000 Canadian a year as a base salary, and then if they made anything in addition to that, so every dollar that they make over per hour or per week, however you want to calculate it, then 50 cents of that annual income would be clawed back, right? So you'll eventually get to a point where you're making enough money that you don't. Anyway, that's the way the math works. I didn't know a lot about it, so I started to dig into it a little bit today, or yesterday and today when we were getting ready to bring this to you, and I was like, well, if it's tax free, that'd be a tough sell on me, because I got to pay taxes on that part of it too. But as I understand it, at least the Irish model is that it's taxed just like regular income is, which is kind of weird, right? You're getting money from the government and then they're taking some of it back. But I guess that's the way it works. I mean, that's how government work works, right? When I was in the military, they tax us just the same as everybody else. So 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Guaranteed annual income. Is it a solution to the affordability crisis? Let's go to the phones. We welcome Mike to the show. Mike, how are you?
Good, boy. Good. How good is your day going for getting me first caller?
Well, yeah. Hey, I can't get any better than that, can I?
Listen, as a senior with an old age pension of just over $700 a month, I think a good pilot program would be for, and hear me out, Dan,
sure,
people that are just living on the old age and whatever CPP they may be. People with other business, corporate pensions or whatever, government pensions,
right,
wouldn't qualify. But I think just old age and CPP is so far behind. I mean, we were talking weeks ago there about $29 an hour,
yes,
being still just kind of meeting the poverty level. So you can imagine what $700 a month adds up to, maybe
$8,400 a year,
$4.
Yeah, $8,400 a year.
Yeah. So what I was thinking is that, and just to change the numbers that Ireland has, I would think with the cost of living today, housing, you're not going to get anything under $1,000. I was thinking $1,000 a week brings in that 48,000 a year, or 40. What is it? 48,000.
Right.
And the old age pensions are taxed anyway.
Yep.
So I mean, you could tax that 48,000, but at least it gives seniors a little more respectable lifestyle. You know, they can afford their groceries and their medications. You know, myself, I have several medications that I take.
Right.
And for all those listeners, no, none of them are for crazy pills. But anyway, it's just, I think that that number seems to be something that would be very livable. $1,000 a week. Like I said, that's in around that 25-30% of your wages. And so that was kind of my take on it. But I think that, if there's people out there listening that have the power to start that ball rolling, I think that would be a great pilot program, because our seniors have contributed an awful lot to this country.
If it went with the Irish model and you went from 8,400 to 28,000, you'd be getting a big raise, Mike.
Well, with the supplements, Dan, like mine has increased. With my CPP right now, I'm at, and the top ups, I'm just shy of $2,000 a month.
Right, but still, it would be an increase, right?
If I doubled that, my rent, having the basics like cable. I do have a car. It's an old one, but it's still running, and you've got your insurance, your gas, your maintenance. So,
right.
$4,000 would give you at least a little better standard of living.
Mike, great call. Appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Have a good day.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. I don't know if we want to go above much more than that. I don't think people want to be. I think that the idea behind it would be that you have a starting point, right, and then it would go from there, and it would be clawed back as you made some money. I don't think we would want a guaranteed annual income where people could just live on it, because then nobody would work, right? And then what happens to the economy? But I think that having a starting point like the Irish model at 28,000 a year, I think was the number, would make people that are really struggling in a better position, right? And maybe would free up some employment for others, for those of you that are in a better position. That make any sense? 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Let's go to Bernie. Bernie, how are you?
Good morning, Dan. How you doing?
Good. What's on your mind today?
Good. A good subject. I'm all for the guaranteed annual income. I think its time has come, and because of the economic situation today and the futility of trying to work in the private sector and everything, that it's something that's long overdue. And I think it will help the marginalized people in this country. Probably about 30% of them alleviate some of their stress and not having enough money to make a living on.
Right. I just think that, I can see both sides of it, Bernie, I really can, but I just don't think that our last caller, Mike, said you're going to get an apartment no less than, if you could find an apartment for $1,000 a month, you're way ahead of me, right?
Yeah.
And I just don't
think of it, Dan. They're talking with the first trillionaire in the world is going to be Elon Musk. So there's lots of money around. It's just got to be redistributed more evenly among the working class, especially in this country and probably around the world. But there's one other subject I just wanted to bring up, Dan.
Sure.
I think it's time for Canada to take the tariff off the Chinese EV vehicles.
Right.
Let the Chinese come here and build plants right in this country and produce the electric cars. And I think because they're not getting anywhere with the Americans want the whole auto industry for themselves.
But why would the Chinese want to do that, Bernie?
Outside the box.
Why would the
Chinese
Bernie
drop the tariffs on canola and beef products? China got a population of 1.4 billion. It's a bigger economy,
right?
And Canada should start looking outside the box.
Why on earth would the Chinese want to build a plant here?
They said they would.
Why would they though? Because they plants
right in Canada.
The only market would be Canada, because
our auto industry.
Because the Americans will never let a Chinese car across the border. So it's a pretty small market, Canada.
Well, the thing is when it comes down to price, and the price is cheaper, and they can make it cheaper, I think people will find ways of getting around it to buy them.
All right, Bernie, appreciate it, sir.
Okay, right.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. I think it's going to be a long time before the U.S. economy allows a Chinese based, Canadian-built electric vehicle to cross the border into the U.S. I think it's going to be a long time before that happens. And why on earth would the Chinese build a plant here just to service Canada? We only got, 40 million people here, and only a percentage of them are going to drive. I don't think it's worth it. And they sure as heck aren't going to build them here and then ship them back to China, because the transport costs would be crazy. Why don't they just build them in China? 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. The open hour continues right after the break.
Facts.
All right, welcome back. This is the Midweek Meltdown, your chance to talk about whatever it is that is on your mind. The question I threw out for you today, and I'm interested in your opinion on, is guaranteed annual income. And the reason why we're talking about this is I read a story yesterday or today. It was yesterday, I guess, on a pilot project that's underway in Ireland and has been successful. Now, it wasn't the broad economy that was eligible for that. That means that not everybody is eligible. It was a small segment of the economy, and it was an effort to help grow that sector by offering a guaranteed annual income at $28,000 Canadian a year. Now, with all of the problems that we've been discussing here for months and years, I guess, and the affordability crisis, is this a solution? Is an annual income to every Canadian over 18 or whatever the number would be? Would that be a solution to it? And the reason why I asked that question is that I don't think we're going to see that living wage be the median salary here, particularly here in Halifax, ever. I can see people that are have employees and saying, well, you got to pay your employee, was it $29.40 an hour? They'll be like, nope, can't afford it. Yet, I think I mentioned it on Friday or Thursday. I had a conversation with a construction worker who was waiting for a bus, I think, and said that it's a shame that he's building apartments that he can't afford to rent. So what's the fix here? And I think, and I mentioned this earlier, I think we have to think outside the box. I'm not suggesting that this guaranteed annual income is the right solution, but I think it's worthy of discussion. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. This email is from Ken. And Ken writes, instead of a guaranteed annual income, why not raise the baseline for income tax exemption? I think it would be less expensive than the government bureaucracy and administration of a guaranteed annual income. Just my 2 cents. I don't know how that makes you. It puts more money into your pocket, right? But even if they raise the income tax exemption, I don't know if that's enough to tip the scales. And as for the bureaucracy, well, other jurisdictions that have tried this eliminated a lot of the social programs that are currently underway because they were no longer needed, because people were getting an annual income. So all of that overhead, all of that that manpower would be just redirected into a different spot. At least that's how I think it works. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Greg, how are you?
Hey, how you doing, sir?
Good. It's on your mind.
Let me get this straight. So, in other words, what would happen is the government would give people $28,000, whatever it is.
Yep.
In other words, taxpayer money.
Yep.
Would be used to fund this.
Yep.
And I don't think that's fair to people who have worked, who went out and got education, who've got a good job paying money, to ask them to pay for somebody else who's not doing anything.
What are we paying now in social programs?
Yeah, I know.
Like, how much are we paying every year in welfare?
Lots.
Right.
But I remember I used to work in a nonprofit organization for housing and stuff.
Yep.
And I've seen people there, you want to talk about abuses. They're getting social assistance, they're getting their rent paid and everything, yet they're working under the table, making all kinds of money, and have better furniture than I did.
Right.
That's not fair. I just say, we got a problem in there. I mean, you talk about affordability for homes. Well, when you built these complexes, right, they cost money, lots and lots of money. And naturally, when you go to the banks to get a loan, well, the bank's going to want their loan paid.
Right.
They're going to want their mortgage paid.
Right.
And unfortunately, but I don't think a guaranteed income is going to help the problem. I don't think it is. I think it's just, you're just putting a Band-Aid on it or something.
Okay, Greg.
As far as I'm concerned.
And I agree with you. I don't agree with you, but I understand your opinion. That being said, how do we fix the affordability crisis? Are rents going to come down $1,000 a month?
No, they're not.
So how do we fix that?
I work in that system.
Right.
I work in that system.
Yeah.
But the problem is with owners who get money to build these apartment complexes, and it's a lot and lots of money. So they borrow money from a bank, and they have a mortgage.
Right.
They are looking for their money every month. They couldn't care less, where, what, and there. The banks, I'm telling you, they don't care what. They want their money paid every month.
Yep.
Okay? And I'm just saying, so that's what puts that. Affordable housing, I don't know how you're going to do that. I mean, I agree with you. We have to have some because people need to live. Agreed. But again, you can't go to the guy that's building the place and say, well, I'm sorry, you're not here to make any money, because he's there to make money, whether you like it or not. He's taking the risk. He wants a return on his income, like anybody else does. And I don't know. I mean, it may work. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying no, but I'm just saying, that it may not go over well with Canadians who are paying taxes. I mean, because, to ask them and say, well, we're going to pay for someone who's not doing anything.
Greg,
I don't mind helping people out.
Sure.
I
understand. Greg, appreciate the call, sir.
Okay, bye-bye.
Have a good one. 902-405-6000 1-877-801-8255. I get it. And that was the counter argument that we had yesterday. Was like, hey, I don't want to pay. I've been paying taxes a long time, and I don't want somebody just to be sitting on their couch and make $28,000 a year. And that's, I think, a fair argument. And when it comes to abuses, I can list a lot of people that are making a lot of money that are abusing the system. I don't think it's just those that are less fortunate than you and I, right? Just think about it. But all of that being said, the current way we do things doesn't work. And it's not going to work. It's like I said, all of a sudden they're going to say, oh, you know what? The market is saturated. We're going to drop rents by $1,000 a month so that most people can afford it. That's just not going to happen. Grocery store prices aren't coming down. They're not. When we see bouts of inflation like we saw the last couple of years when they go up 6 and 8% on an annual return, when the inflation rate drops to 2%, that doesn't mean that the prices are going down. That means that they're only going up by less. $16 an hour is minimum wage. $24 or $29.40 is the living wage, what you need to live. There's a huge income gap there. And as I said before, if you tell somebody that's paying somebody $17, $18, $19 an hour, nope, you got to pay them $29.40 an hour, they're going to, nope, can't afford it. They'll shut down or they'll lay people off. So what's the solution? 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Quick, before we take the break here, an email. It said, hey, Dan, I heard about this experiment for guaranteed income. It sounded good at the time. The NDP experimented with this like 30 years ago. They also said it worked, but the project got thrown into the warehouse and was never looked at again. My question would be, if $0 income, today now $30,000, then naturally people making $30,000 are going to want $60,000 and so on. Naturally, the cost of everything's going to go up as well. And a lot of people are not going to get raises at the same time as inflation, putting, again, us further behind. And I would agree with you, Rob, to a point. But the case study that I looked at had a set number. And then if you made money over that, then it started to claw back, right? So that it's not putting it as at a disadvantage, if that makes any sense. Going to continue the conversation after the break. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. The Midweek Meltdown, right after the news. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. It's Wednesday. That means it's the Midweek Meltdown Open Hour. Your chance to talk about whatever it is on your mind. We're having a good discussion today on guaranteed annual income. It's been talked about a lot. There's a pilot project that kind of spurred the conversation on for me out of Ireland, where they've had some success. Now, I get it. It wasn't across the broader economy. It was in a small segment of it. But they're trying different ways and thinking outside the box. And I think that thinking out, and I'm not suggesting that this is the be-all to end-all. I really am not. I think that it's worthy of discussion because the current way that we do things just ain't working anymore. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Let us welcome Steve to the show. Steve, how are you?
Hey, I'm good, Dan. How are you?
Good. It's on your mind, sir.
Hey, I can't get behind it because that's the same as the UBI, Universal Basic Income, that's been floated around for quite some time.
Okay.
I guess, when we're projecting a federal deficit of somewhere between 70 to 100 billion federally, and then provincially, we're also looking at deficits. A UBI is not the way to go. At what point do we run out of money?
At what point do we not try something different, though? That's my point, right?
Well, that's fine. Years ago when I was in university,
right,
one of the things that was tackled in Hamilton, apparently, was giving low-income people programs of choice. So they could pick something that could help alleviate their burden. For example, maybe they choose their electricity was covered or something along those lines. I would think that's a far better way of doing this. And I also have issues, too, because if I understood it correctly, the Irish case is the arts community.
It is. And it's
I have nothing against the arts, but if you're an able-bodied person, you kind of have to assess. Everybody wants to do what they want to do. But let's face it, if you're able-bodied, maybe writing poetry or painting or photography, that's your second line of, income or whatever. I would rather see that UBI apply to seniors or something along those lines rather than, artistic kind of endeavors. That's just me. Finland also tried this.
They did.
UBI, and it fizzled because they couldn't afford it. They figured it out. There's just too much money being spent on it, so it went away. And I think that's going to be the same case here. It's a nice idea. It's an interesting concept. I don't think it's practical when, all levels of government are projecting deficits.
Steve, great call. I appreciate it.
No worries. Have a great day, Dan.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. To Steve's point, if I want to be an electrician and it's my passion and I'm good at it, I can go out and make a living at it. Right? If I'm a visual artist and it's my passion and I'm good at it, Steve's telling me it has to be my sideline. What's the difference? Right? Yeah, you need lights. Yeah, you need trades. Yeah, you need to build stuff. Yeah, you need to fix cars. Yeah, you need to do what is, pick up the garbage, do whatever. But we also like to look at stuff. We also like art. We also like things that the art community does. So, my personal opinion, I applaud Ireland for doing this, for trying to grow a segment that is not as lucrative, let's say, as the trades or being a business guy or business person, I should say. And that's if you are good at something and you want to do it, you should be able to eat. Bottom line. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Where are we here? Let's go to Mike. Mike, how are you?
I'm good, Dan. How are you?
I'm okay. What's on your mind?
I have to disagree with what you just said about the arts and the electrician.
Right.
If someone's passion is arts, that don't mean because that's their passion and they're good at it that they should be supported by other people because someone else went out and chose a profession that they can make a living on. I don't agree with that at all. I mean, that's like saying your passion is radio, but if it didn't pay you enough to pay your bills, would you find something that did or a way to supplement your income, or would you put your hand out for someone else?
Radio doesn't pay enough to pay my bills. Really, it doesn't.
I knew that's what you were going to say.
No, I get it. No, I understand where you're coming from. I really do. But I just think it's that we've been, staring through blinders for a long time, and it's always been the way that we've done things, right? It's always you have to work in the trades, or you got to be in business, or you got to be in somewhere to make money. But, why not everybody?
Well, you got to use your head when you're choosing your career.
Yeah, but some people are good at drawing and they can't do much else, right?
And they're good at it, and that's fantastic. And we do need the arts, but if I know I can't make a living at it, I shouldn't say, okay, well, I'm going to do it, and hopefully the government bails me out and pays my bills for me.
Or I'm going to do a job that I hate and go through 15 of them.
Well, if it pays your bills at the end of the day, are you going to put food on your family's? You got to put food on your plate and your family's plate, or are you going to do something that you're happy at and you got to go to the food bank?
Right. No, I get it. I understand where you're coming from, Mike.
And as far as the guaranteed income,
yep,
I don't think it will work just because our government can't even fix our welfare system.
Well,
I believe there's
they would
more,
get rid of the welfare system, right?
Okay, well then, but prove they can make it work because there's people that need welfare. I understand. I'm not knocking everyone on welfare. People truly need it, but I feel that there's more people out there benefiting from welfare that don't need it and could go out and find a job than the people that actually need it.
Mike, I agree with you. Have a good one.
You do.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. I also know guys that work in the trades that are making $35 and $40 and $45 and $50 an hour that are jobbing the system, right? They're on an insurance claim, or they're only declaring some of their income and working under the table. It's dangerous policy to paint everybody with the same brush. There's abuses in the system all the way around, and not just people that are in the low-income sector at all. And we can even go up into the ivory towers of some of these companies and talk about people jobbing the system, right? where are we? Let's go to Grant. Grant, how are you?
Good morning. I'm ready to let loose here.
Oh, let her loose.
I don't think we can fix affordable housing.
Okay.
To me, it's a mathematical impossibility until we acknowledge basic, simple supply and demand, and that bringing in too many people will severely impact housing and health care, don't forget. We'll never solve affordable housing or even come close to addressing it until we acknowledge a correlation between too many people and housing. Okay, I've worked in telecom, and there's some of these apartment buildings, these smaller ones, which is predominantly what I work in, 32 units, that are at least half newcomers, and I base that off their English ability and their accents, but at least half. So until we acknowledge that, and that's what raises the prices. There's too much demand and not enough supply. It's basic economics is what it is.
Okay.
And we can't ignore a correlation because it's an uncomfortable conversation that people don't want to have.
So we just throw our hands up?
No. Where'd you get that from when I said that?
Because you're saying that, until there's too many people, not enough apartments, and until we fix that, it's going to always be that way.
No, we need to reduce the amount of people coming here.
Then
there's too much. There's too much demand, not enough supply.
So how do you do that?
We're at 1% vacancy. How do you do it?
We're not at 1% anymore. We're at 5% or 3%. Sorry. But anyway, do we just stop people coming from Alberta and from Manitoba and from Saskatchewan and just say you can't come to Nova Scotia anymore?
No, we stop people from coming from other countries.
Oh, so that's there it is, right? It's the immigration problem that's the issue. But I'm going to say
at least half the apartments rented in some of these buildings are newcomers. At least half.
Okay,
and that's a fact.
Sure.
So from that, you got people from Manitoba is the issue?
Well, no, but how many people came here during the pandemic from Ontario? Tell me that number.
See, you're doing exactly what I'm saying. It's a conversation people don't want to have.
No, you see, you're doing exactly what I'm saying is you're just saying, oh, it's immigration, we can't fix this. We just throw our hands up and we're done. Right?
Why won't you acknowledge a correlation between too many people and housing? Why?
Well, I don't think I'm not acknowledging it. There's an obvious problem with there's very few apartments for the people that are here. But the problem isn't going to get any better. They're not going to leave.
So why would we open it? Why would we open the doors to people to come here? I mean, we just had an apartment building burned down in Sackville.
Yep.
About a month ago.
Yep.
Where do they go? What do they do?
Well, that's just it, right?
So there's too many people. It's not complicated.
So Grant, in the next 5 years, how do you fix that? Do you kick people out?
There should be some of that. Absolutely. There should be.
Who goes?
For example, people who have finished their student permits should leave, and they don't. They don't leave.
Okay. So the plan to bring people here and educate them in Nova Scotia and have them be doctors and dentists and everything else, that we just get rid of that.
Or security guards. But that's what's happening. It's not a secret that people on student visas are staying when they're supposed to leave. I'm not making that up.
Okay.
No, I don't have a numerical figure for you.
Right.
But that's what's happening. That's not my opinion. It just is happening.
Okay.
I mean, look on Facebook Marketplace. There's people renting half a bedroom.
Yeah, I know. I get it.
Only
I understand.
People from a certain ethnicity. Okay.
It's not. No, Grant. No, not accepting that.
Yes.
Not accepting it.
Well. Okay, go Mark. Okay, well, do you want me to send you an ad?
Well, I'm sure you'll find stuff that to support your argument.
No,
I get it, but I don't think it's just based on ethnicity. Grant, I'm gonna thanks for the call, Grant. I appreciate it, but boy, based on ethnicity, come on. We're taking a break. We're back in a minute. Like I said at the beginning, when we started talking about guaranteed annual income, there are people on one side of it and on the other. There's very little middle ground on this discussion, isn't there? As was demonstrated in our last call. And that's why we have these discussions, is to try and discuss the issues of the day and maybe come up with a solution. But when we get sideways and we start blaming ethnicity for stuff, not going there. Just not going to happen. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Let's welcome John to the show. John, how are you?
Not bad, Dan. Thank you for taking my call.
What's on your mind?
Well, you picked a good topic.
Yeah, no doubt.
My opinion on all of that. Well, Dan.
John, are you still there?
Yes, my wife and I, we worked our whole lives.
Yep.
I'm at the point now, 68 years old. By the end of the day, I can barely walk because I worked.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't always do things I wanted to do, but I had a family to support. I would have loved to have done many other things. And as you have said yourself, there is a huge abuse of the system that we have in this country right now.
I don't know if it's huge, but it's there.
Oh, it's huge, Dan. Believe me, I know. I've worked in this. I've worked here. It's nice to be able to do whatever you want to do, and regardless of whether you can make a living off of it. And as long as someone's going to be out there topping you up, I'm afraid that what will happen, and we've heard this argument before, this will become a cycle.
Okay. Explain.
Right? So a family growing up with young kids, I've heard this out of parents' mouths. Why work? Don't go away to work. Don't pay travel to work.
Right.
All of those things. And what we need in this country now, more than ever, is for people to want to get out and do something, to get out and work. If you don't like what you're doing, you stay with it until you have something else to go to, and you leave.
And I understand that, John, but $28,000 a year, you can't live on that. So you have to work.
Okay, so here's the second point, which I've brought up many times before.
Sure.
None of our government will even look at it. Why is everything costing so? Dan, you can go to a grocery store and buy beef from Australia or Brazil or Mexico cheaper than you can from Canada.
It's bizarre, isn't it?
Buying in apples from Australia, New Zealand, cheaper than we can buy them in our own province.
Yep.
And then we have people talking about, the climate change and all this other, things don't add up. I worked overseas for a time. Spent some time over in China, and we were in Hong Kong for a few weeks on the dry dock. And we had free time to go around to all the little, and there's tons of little stores there. I mean, it's out of this world. Very nice people. And I asked them one day, one of the owners says, "How do you guys make a living off this? Your prices are so low." You know what he said, Dan? "I'd rather make a few cents per item every day and continue than make this huge 120%, 200%. And in Canada, many, I don't have the facts, but I'm sure our government can figure it out. We got Stats Canada and everything else there, what we pay for. How much profit is enough profit?
And that's a fair question, right? It's working for the shareholder rather than for everybody else, right?
Exactly. The wife and I, when we used to get a few couples going to town years ago just to get away for a night, you could go in and stay at the Cambridge Inn and Suites, $125 a night. Go out, spend a few $100s, eating, listen to some music. Today, go see what that will cost you. If they were making a profit before, what are they doing now?
John,
and the same thing goes with insurance companies.
No, I hear you. I paid my insurance bill last month.
You never have a claim. Does your insurance ever go down?
No, nothing goes down. Nothing.
Nothing.
Right. John, hey, appreciate it, sir. I got lots of calls. I want to move on. Cheers. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Let's welcome Tim to the show. Tim, how are you?
Hey, how's it going now?
Good. What's on your mind?
Oh, well, I just wanted to kind of piggyback on the caller, sort of 2 or 3 callers ago. They were talking about housing and shortages and stuff. And I think the point that you maybe was trying to make before, went off on a tangent, was that there's sort of a failure to acknowledge, and I mean, it happens, I've never once in my life, 35 years, heard a politician, say he was wrong or say he messed up. But over the last over the last 3 to 5 years, you've noticed exactly what the caller was saying, housing shortages, healthcare shortages, everything kind of seemingly going up. But it would just be nice to have an acknowledgement from the government at any level, provincial, federal, to acknowledge that, hey, we may have overshot it on the immigration or whatever, but not bringing people in, moving people around the country. Because it's not just immigration, it's moving people around the country, like you said.
Yeah.
During COVID, it seemed like there was a big shift.
Right.
A bunch of people west.
I would love to see that. And I don't know the number it is, to be honest, but I would love to see it, to see how many people moved here during.
We work in the trades, and we met so many people that were relocated during that time that sort of came down here. But I think it's that sort of acknowledgement. It's sort of they're leading us with not really being, not that they can be honest, but it would do a lot if they could just say, acknowledge, kind of what happened in the past, what their plan is moving forward. Like you said, it's not so much there's an easy fix that we could say, oh, well, let's just do this. Let's, kick them all out. But to just acknowledge it and say, look, we messed up. We have a plan over the next 5 to 10 years to help try and balance this by reducing people coming in, increasing housing supply. But it just doesn't seem like, obviously they come out with budgets. It just doesn't seem like there's a lot of transparency, I guess, at the end of the day.
Tim, I appreciate it, sir.
No worries.
Have a good one. And I appreciate each and every one of you for picking up the phone and dialing numbers and joining the conversation. I truly appreciate it. We may not agree, but we will we'll certainly listen to everybody's side on these arguments. I think this is a topic for another day. There's still a lot of people that we didn't get to today, and maybe we'll open it up again later this week or later on this month. Thanks to Vanessa Vandenez on the other side of the glass, doing a fantastic job keeping things moving forward. Don't forget tonight, all right? Mooseheads game, 6:30 tonight on the radio and on the stream at 8:30. The Blue Jays game will come on to your radio. You have to have a radio, and the Mooseheads game will continue on the stream. And, of course, the programming note I mentioned off the top of the show, Rob Snow's show, unavailable from the source today, so you'll get to listen to me again. Aren't you lucky? Have a fantastic day, everyone. Be well, and remember, be kind to one another.